Over the past 2 years, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, and Amazon have rapidly downsized their global workforce. Tens of thousands of roles have been eliminated in a sweeping push for corporate efficiency. Tech companies slash operating expenses, primarily payroll, to fund massive AI capital expenditures. It's rational on an isolated spreadsheet, but zooming out, cutting one tech job instantly eliminates 4 downstream service jobs. Municipal tax bases vaporize, leaving regional utilities struggling with rising energy poverty. Every tech giant makes the mathematically correct choice to protect their isolated margins. But by acting alone, they inadvertently dismantle the civic foundations of the exact communities they operate in. Building a new 100-megawatt AI data center requires millions of gallons of water per day for evaporative cooling, plus massive continuous electrical grid capacity. But the town hosting this facility just watched its tax base evaporate from the tech layoffs. The municipality cannot issue the municipal bonds needed to upgrade its water treatment plant or harden the local power grid. The utility is forced to pass the strain onto residents. As local energy rates rise and inflation bites, the community pushes back, organizing fierce local resistance against the tech expansion. This timeline shows the physical chain reaction. That billion-dollar AI campus hits a multi-year blockage in the interconnection queue. In a single year, over $150 billion in data center and renewable energy projects were stalled or canceled entirely due to this community resistance and infrastructure constraint. The hyperscalers saved $150,000 on a software engineer's salary, only to permanently strand a billion-dollar hardware investment. The fragility bleeds from the grid directly into the legal system. When regional economic anxiety spikes and social trust erodes, local courts are flooded with low-stakes, extractive nuisance lawsuits. This cost comparison scale illustrates the math from the insurer's perspective. Defending a frivolous, meritless claim to dismissal costs up to $25,000 in legal fees. Settling costs $10,000. On an isolated ledger, paying the claimant to go away is the logical choice. But as the scale multiplies here into a rising systemic poison, every cheap settlement teaches the region that filing a lawsuit pays, demand letters rise, and corporate insurance premiums climb for everyone, including the hyperscaler building the next data center. If the math of this trap is so obvious, why don't Amazon, the local utility, and the regional insurer simply pool their operational data to map the risk and stabilize the failing region? Because doing so is illegal. If these entities attempted to centralize their raw operational records, they would trigger immediate Department of Justice antitrust violations for collusion and violate strict global data privacy laws. The legal architecture of the information age actually forces vital civic stakeholders to fail in isolation. This diagram outlines a new class of digital infrastructure called a zero-liability architecture. We can map regional risk using a spatial index, breaking the map into a grid of discrete hexagonal footprints called geohashes. Competitors can share cryptographic proofs about a region's stability without ever exchanging raw customer records or violating privacy laws. Watch how the pooled defensive capital flows horizontally. Instead of companies spending individually on write-offs and nuisance settlements, they contribute to a coordination layer. That money flows outward to settle utility bad debt cross-ledger and directly funds civic institutions like transit and energy assistance programs. The circuit completes right here at the household node. Families are the attestation layer. When a household verifies that their specific survival gap, like an unpaid electric bill, has been closed, they send a cryptographic signal that releases locked capital across the entire pool, generating massive systemic returns. Defensive capital that was previously trapped in stranded construction and legal waste becomes liquid, systemic stabilization for the entire region. This requires a different understanding of the tech worker. A human being embedded in a community functions as a high-fidelity ground truth sensor. When 10,000 employees live in a single metropolitan geohash, they know when the local hospital is gridlocking. They know when community opposition to a data center is forming. They detect this civic fragility 6 to 12 months before it ever hits a corporate risk dashboard. The protocol introduces the geohash dividend. When an organizing entity retains its local workers to map risk and verify the closing of these survival gaps, the system rewards them. The company captures a recurring dynamic share of the fractional pool generated by stabilizing that specific area. The financial arithmetic of austerity completely inverts. operating expenses are no longer dead weight. Paying your local workforce is the required cost to maintain the sensory network that generates new direct market revenue. Tech companies can optimize their isolated balance sheets indefinitely, but the next physical limit constraining artificial intelligence is the civic carrying capacity of the human communities required to power it.